It's like square root of a cube. Okay, you're right. I think you have the right thing.
Like for example, when you find the cube root of 8 is 2. It's 2
How come?
times 2 times 2.
It's 2 times 2 times 2, right. Square rooting is looking for the one number you can multiply by itself to get to the number that's under the radical. A cube root, you're looking for the number you can multiply by itself 3 times. Yep, 2 times 2 times 2 gets you 8. Now, instead of asking you what's the cube root of 8 and expecting to see 2, we might ask you what's 8 to the 1/3.
So in a way, you're kind of doing like the opposite of when you have negative exponents.
Does it mean the same thing?
Yeah, it's opposite's not quite the right word, but yeah, it's another variation on it.
It means the same thing.
Cube root of 8 means the exact same thing as 8 to the 1/3. We're going to start mixing and matching this with negative exponents, Matt, so I get confused. Yeah, there's no difference. What this really amounts to is shorthand for some ideas. All right, let's check out what the next idea is we talked about first period. Okay. Oh, there it is. It took a minute to pop up. Okay, for example, check out this bottom one here now. Here's where we're going to mix and match all of it. All right? 1 over the cube root of 5 to the 5th power. 5 to the 5th power means multiply. 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. Cube root means after you've multiplied that out, find the one number which when you multiply it by itself 3 times will get you 5 to the 5th. And to top it off, it's on the bottom of a fraction. Now, you're not going to have to figure out things like this without a calculator in terms of getting me a decimal answer.
How would you figure it out with a calculator?
We'll get to that. Actually, it's actually pretty simple. Actually, I'll write that in a second. What you are going to have to do tonight on the homework, though, is just show me that you understand how to rearrange the notation. For example, if you're raising to a power, that's the numerator of your rational expression. If you're looking for a root, that's the denominator of your rational expression. So if you're doing both at once, okay, raising something to a... Brandon? You're moving the projector. All right, it's confusing me. Thought I was losing my mind. So if you're raising something to... Don't make me chase it. If you're raising something to a 5th power and looking for a cube root, you can express that as just you're raising it to the 5/3 power. The numerator talks about the root you're raising to. The denominator talks about the root you're looking for. Now, since it's on the bottom of a fraction, and we said when you want to flip something over a fraction bar, you make it a negative exponent, the simplest way to express this idea is 5 to the negative 5/3. I look at the 5 raised to the negative 5/3 power, and I know from looking at that, that 5 is getting raised to the 5th power. I'm looking for the cube root of that, and when I'm done, I put it on the bottom of a fraction.
So anything outside the square root is your denominator?
Anything outside? Yes. This is where the root symbol goes. This small, anything raised up here in a superscript outside the square root, that's your denominator of your fraction. Just look at how to rearrange the notation. All right? Now, I'm going to ask you to do some of this without a calculator tonight, and I'll show you what that's like. The numbers will be pretty simple. Okay, figuring out rational expressions and other roots without a calculator. Hint, always figure out the root first. The problems tonight are going to be set up in the book to try without a calculator. Now, I'm not going to know if you use your calculator or not tonight. Except when you come back, you're going to have a test on this with a no calculator page, so you probably want to practice now.
Honest test.
I got to decide that when we get back. We'll do some review work and see just how much you guys forget over spring break.
Is after spring break?
Yeah, it's not going to be tomorrow or the next day.
So we don't need to worry about it.
Yeah. Well, worry about it a little bit. Okay, for example here. There we go. Here's the first one. All right, 32 to the 4/5 power. Now I'm going to ask you to think the other way. Give you one where it says 32 raised to the 4/5. What this means is find the 5th root of 32 first, then raise that to the 4th power. You can do that in the other order if you want. You can write it in the other order. But the way the problems are set up, it's always easier to find the root. It happens on standardized tests too, like the ACT and the SAT. Yes, sir?
On the one before that one, this one you used parentheses, but that one you didn't. You just wrote the 4, like the 5 right beside the number.
Excellent point. Here, this one, the directions would have been just change the notation. Take this from radical notation and move it to rational exponent notation. So then it doesn't matter so much. I use the parentheses here to remind you about this hint. Always figure the root first. Because I want you to find the 5th root of 32 before you do anything else. What is the 5th root of 32? I know I gave it to you here, but how's your memory / ability?
16.
No, 16 is,
I see it on your hand.
it's under my hand. It's 2, right there.
This is on top of your hand.
Because
Yeah.
it's
You can't
on
cover it.
top of my hand. Look at the top of my hand and see if you can read the 2. Technology's great. So the 32 is 2 times 2, which gets you 4, times 2 a third time, which gets you 8, times 2 a fourth time, which gets you 16, times 2 a fifth time, which gets you 32. When you get back, I'll get you a table, which I'll tell you what powers I expect you to know of which numbers. I expect you to know 2 up to like the 7th or 8th. I don't expect you to know 9 up to like the 9th power. Those numbers get huge. Not without a calculator. So then you figure out the 5th root of 32 is 2. You raise that to the 4th power. 2 times 2 is 4. Cube it is 8. To the 4th power, it's 16. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you don't believe me on this is the way to go, as an exercise on your own, take 32, multiply it by itself 4 times, take that new number and try and figure out what you multiplied by itself 5 times to get that new number. And it will take you a lot longer than that.
Yeah, I believe you.
All right. So, for example, negative on the outside, find the 6th root of 64. Okay? This is just going to be practice with numbers. You know, what do you know? Do you know how many times you multiply, what you multiply by itself 6 times to get 64? It's 2. Why is it negative 2? Because this negative sign just kind of came along for the ride. Okay? Does that make sense?
Who are these people?
One was a parent, one was another student here. Okay, here's one. Here's another one where, I assume you know who Elise is.
No, it's one of the 2.
Oh, they were parents. I'm not sure if they're parents who are thinking about coming here or who have already signed contracts and already have their kids coming here. One of the, it's either new parent day or visiting potential parent day. I forget which. Okay, 49 to the 3/2 power. This means do 2 things. Take the square root of this number and cube this number. You can do it in either order because they're both exponents.
Don't you put the 2 somewhere though?
Okay, good point. You can put the 2 here, except if you don't see a number there, it's understood to be square root. So you don't have to write it for square root, just like you haven't been all along. But excellent point. Yeah, if you want to be picky about it, you can write the 2 there, and that's just as good. Okay? Now, I did it in this order because I know the square root of 49 is 7. And I know 7 cubed is 343. I don't want to multiply 49 by itself 3 times and then try and figure out that square root. That would hurt my brain. You get the idea? Do you guys see the difference between that order? Okay. That's really all it is today. The homework tonight is 2 things. Read the directions carefully first. Part of it is just rewrite what you're doing. So part of it is just like this up here. Given it in one form, rewrite it in the other. The other part of it is to actually figure stuff out without a calculator. And as you can see on the board, it's page 404, 14 to 40, even, no calculator.